Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 64 of the Two Chaps Many Cultures live show. Today, we're going to talk about being your best self, the very best self, not only virtually, but also culturally at the same time. Stick around. We've got a very special guest. See you soon.
Happy Thursday, everybody.
Yeah.
Man, didn't we do this just a couple of minutes ago? Wasn't the last episode like before I went to bed? I guess so.
I was thinking about this, but it wasn't within the 12-hour window. Now, what I want to do one day is I want to finish an episode at about 11:59, and then start another one at 1:01 on at 12:01 the next day.
Okay, we can do 2 episodes called, or at least one of them will be One Chap Many Cultures.
Thanks for your support. All right, never mind. Well, welcome everybody. Yes, today we have a very special guest who's going to talk about being our very best self virtually and culturally at the same time. And she's got a small window, so we're going to bring her right in. Barbara, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. Two Chaps, Many Cultures. Finally, I'm here on stage with you. Really happy about that.
Finally, because Barbara's in big demand. We're talking about a rock star here, and you know, in between classes and teaching and giving out her wonderful knowledge. You know, it's just fantastic that we've been able to squeeze in, and I'm hoping, of course, she's in the middle of classes, in between classes. I'm going to welcome her students. You know, I'm sure they're all doing as they're told, as teacher says.
Me too.
So, Barbara, virtual space hero. I'm just going to say those words. It's become a hashtag. It's a great hashtag. It's an idea of yours. It's something you've launched. Tell us about Virtual Space Hero, your intention, what brought you to coming up with it, and how it's been going for you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, as for many of us, this year has been a tremendous change as well, personally and also professionally, as it has been for me. So imagine I was supposed to leave for Brazil in February to be on a sabbatical leave for 4 months, not doing anything except drinking a little bit of caipirinha and learning Portuguese. So that was my intention. At the end, well, I decided to stay in Europe, not only because of COVID, but also because I felt tremendously in love with an Argentinian guy, and I moved back to Spain. And then COVID happened. And with COVID, of course, as well, there was a lot of demand all about virtual work. I've been teaching, researching new ways of working and new ways of learning for the past 8 years, more or less. And so I've been doing a lot of virtual teaching, virtual work, group teamwork together with other people together. And there was a lot of demand. And I started giving webinars, as many of us did. We were supporting each other through webinars, being the co-producer for other teachers, professors who needed to switch with their in-presence trainings to the virtual classroom. And a beautiful brainstorming session one night, I still can remember it, with my dear friend Khadija Nayev. She's a tremendous social media manager. She told me, you know, Barbara, there's so much content on your webpage, people get confused. You need to take that virtual thing out of your web and create something new. And I was like, create something new? What new? And then it was like within 15 minutes, we brainstormed Virtual Space Hero, and that's my hashtag now. My claim, become a hero of the virtual space. And we have built up a platform for virtual enthusiasts and to-bes around topics that concern virtual team building, virtual work, virtual events, and much more. So that's a very whole story, right?
There's a whole lot of questions that I have around this now. So, A, have you fulfilled the claim of being the hero? I think.
Oh, well,
conclusion.
Can I answer first question? I don't claim to be the hero. I want us all to become heroes and heroines of the virtual space. So I never call myself the hero of the virtual space, but the founder of Virtual Space Hero with the corresponding platform and virtual events production company, yes.
So where's your cape? Is it?
Oh, God, everything is here. I have a flower cape, you know?
She comes prepared. Okay, the second question is, and look at this. Look at this, see? As if we have prepared this. Ooh, no, we didn't. The second question is, does your Argentinian love interest allow you to drink caipirinha in Europe? Or since it's a Brazilian drink, he has issues with that?
Well, the fun thing is, you know, it's not about Argentina or anything else. I'm not drinking alcohol at all at this point.
All right. Something to ponder. So you've been helping other virtual novices at times to get into the groove of delivering their message or honing their content via a new medium. What are some of the things that you point out to them at first? What is it they need to keep in mind as they transition from in classroom or live in-person delivery to a virtual delivery format?
I think one thing that we all did at the beginning, and that also was like the fastest message for everybody, is that there are, and it's easy to bring your stuff from the in-person context to a virtual space if you know how to manage breakout rooms, to be fair. If you know how to deal a little bit with the whiteboard and annotation tool, if you are like highly skilled in managing chat and the phases and the hands up, whatever. But I think that, of course, virtual facilitation goes beyond that, because it's not only about converting what we have in an in-presence training, it's about transforming it. And I think in the first moment, it was more or less easy for all of us to maybe convert it from an in-presence setting to the online setting, but now it's about transforming it, because we need different didactics, we need different tools and different ways of facilitating when we're online. And I think there's a lot to be done. And for those who are interested in upskilling, just talking about upskilling and virtual facilitation, you might have heard that a team of 4 international professors built up a tremendous upskill program called the Educator Certification Program.
Tell us more.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for pointing into that direction, Christian. Very nice of you. Yeah, that is, you know, Virtual Space Hero is the big baby of mine for this year, and it's already grown a lot. And Global Case Study Challenge is the other big baby of mine. It's not a baby anymore because it's already in the 3rd edition this year. So in short, it's a global virtual teaching project, 300 students, 12 countries, 12 professors, and they are all grouped together in global virtual teams working on case studies. Different steps in between with live lectures, knowledge quizzes, virtual team buildings, reflection videos. And also I'm pretty proud of it because we have been winning several awards, 3 in total already in the past years. And we're in the final round for another international award. This November, we're presenting it. And alongside this Global Case Study Challenge student track, where we invited professors from across the globe, like from India to Chile, professors are participating, we designed an educator certification track this year. And it's starting next week. So those who still want to upskill about virtual facilitation and designing virtual learning journeys, until Sunday, you can get registered.
Excellent.
Well, Brett, we should post a link in the comments, shouldn't we?
We should. We should have links and resources. And I think there are a couple of great words you're using. You're changing the conversation. Virtual enthusiasm, right? Enthusiast. And I guess I can count myself as one of those. I've always believed, long before this current situation, that this was the way that the world was going. So enthusiasm, transformation, right? Instead of just trying to take something what you've already got and putting it in a virtual space, transforming it to suit the platforms we're doing, right? That's a key part. And then, of course, the understanding that just because it's virtual doesn't mean it's easier. In fact, there's some nuances and additional things you have to take to have to apply in the virtual space that you don't have to do in the real space, and also the cultural part of it becomes another nuance, because you're working with people, and your project obviously speaks to this. You've got people from all around the world with many different cultural influences, learning styles, teaching styles, and you're trying to match them up. So you're trying to teach them the virtual facilitation skills to be able to allow for those. So what part of this program kind of do you talk about that in this wider space?
I think in a wider space, what we focus on is cultural intelligence. So to create intercultural sensitivity and understanding among our participants. As you can imagine, and well, all of us who are involved or who are working as intercultural trainers, we at some point have always done like, how do you say, national culture trainings or culture specific trainings. And we do that because sometimes it's needed, companies request it, and it's totally valid. But of course, if I learn one culture, it doesn't mean that I'm able to deal well with another culture. So what we're trying to provide our students with is the understanding on how to raise, to increase their cultural intelligence or their intercultural sensitivity in general. And of course, I think that's a much more long-lasting, that has a much more long-lasting effect, of course.
Now, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen for yourself and for those that you now pass your wisdom on to? What are some of the biggest challenges to adjust in terms of format? Well, what are some of the, you said transform your material to this new delivery. What were some of the transformations that were most challenging for you?
I think for me, definitely the most challenging part is to really design smaller chunks. That is number one, because we were forced, or we are forced in organizations with our 8-hour one-day trainings to deliver that. And we designed it maybe well for a one-day training, but now to split it up into, I usually do 3 sessions of 2 to 3 or something like that, or 3-3-1, whatever. I think this was for me the hardest part. Because it means that you need to think about what do you provide the participants with in between the sessions, so they don't completely lose the connection to the topic, to the course, to the learning. And I think that was when I started it with the teaching, particularly years ago. That was the hardest part. And sometimes it's difficult to fit into a very rigid structure in an organizational or in a university context as well. Sometimes they give you 5-hour slots or 8-hour slots because that's what they have. And so you need to deal a little bit with that situation, I think. The other aspect, I think the second aspect is when it comes to interaction and engagement. And I'd really love to hear what you say, guys, to Chaps, my dears, because I think the 3 of us, we have been doing a lot of online things. We like to talk. We like to do a little bit the entertaining part. And I sometimes have the feeling that this is what is so necessary when you're online to drive engagement, interaction. Is it with managers or is it with students? It doesn't matter. So I'm really wondering how we can do that without being like the super entertainers.
Well, that is a good question. However, I believe that if you're, and this might be a controversial thing, what I say now, if you're going to be instructing others, if you're going to teach people, whether it's teaching, instructing, coaching, guiding, well, whatever action word you want to use, if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then why do it at all? That would be my point of view. So, and with that passion, if you have that fire for what you're teaching, then I would suspect there is a certain level of energy you can devote to the delivery, right? It is now, to me, it means it's channeling it into this window frame, right? When you said to be your best self in the virtual space, I can't be my best human self because the lower part of my body is unusable right now. I mean, I have wonderful legs, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to show them to you though, because there's no way of doing that. I can't. if I jump around a room, which I sometimes do, right? If I'm in a classroom style, then I walk around, I make exaggerated gestures, I become the quote unquote stage persona to keep people's attention, right? I need them to be alert, and I need them to be present, or I want them to be present so they can learn. So now we have to do this in this rectangular frame, and this, I agree with you, that's not easy. However, I think as a teacher, you should have at least a modicum of desire to be passionate about what you're teaching, right? Brett, what do you think?
Absolutely.
Well, you know, I've got a background in performing and singing and being on a stage. So, you know, and Barbara's been in meetings where I've actually used multiple cameras, and I actually have shown my legs a few times. Thank you very much. And I'm not saying they're as attractive as yours, Mr. Christian, but the point is, of course, it's contextual. I mean, if you're in a very serious teaching situation about a very serious topic, you match the tone of the material that you're delivering. But of course, we're all doing this, and then I think as many chances as we can possibly get. I agree about the passion, absolutely, but also any other skills that you can bring to the space. You know, our great friend Yuko de Neuville, who is doing, just getting in front of the camera and dancing and presenting herself vulnerably, but it brings an energy to her persona that people, I think, are attracted to. Right. And therefore, I would certainly sign up for one of her courses, right? Because she is setting up the expectation that this won't be just a pure vanilla window of faces, right? It'll be something where you're going to be asked to move out of your comfort zone. And of course, we're teaching culture, and that often brings that aspect into it. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
But Barbara, I've been taught by some of my teachers the mantra that in content delivery, the content takes second priority. The first priority should be around context, around keeping the container in which delivery is to be happening, to build that container and maintain it and keep it safe throughout the process so that the content can flow without dissipating. So creating this content in a virtual space for you, what have you learned? Because for some of us, especially those who are maybe not as technologically advanced or who may be resistant to learning new tricks because we've done it for 30 plus years and don't I know how to do this? So what are some of the things that helped you become a better facilitator in the virtual space? I'm curious.
I really think that, and it was a great LinkedIn Live I had with Cassie Laborie. She's a senior US virtual facilitator, master trainer, and one thing that she said about all those claims that we can't create connection in the virtual space and all those things, I don't believe in that either. I think it's about us and the way we approach it and what we let it be, or how we approach being in the virtual space as a teacher, professor, as a trainer, as a consultant, also as a student. So it is about me and my personal attitude towards teaching, learning, training, or whatever it is in the virtual space. And I think that also means as we go into in a training situation, I go into the classroom and I do some mimic training. We need to prepare, some of us more, some of us less. I'm doing absolutely the same before I start any kind of teaching, any kind of training in the virtual space. And I think that's important. And the other thing is also be aware about energy administration of your energies, because I also, even though I love that my work is 90% virtual, I teach virtual, I work virtually, all my consulting projects are virtual, and I love that. Though even I need to be aware that it consumes quite some energy. It consumes energy because I always try to watch into the camera properly, to speak to you properly, and all those things, they consume you.
Right.
But I think there are so many possibilities we don't have in a normal in-presence training or teaching setting that we do have in the virtual space. I talked to many trainers who were saying, I believe that people open up more easily because, okay, all of us, we want to have our students or participants on camera, but sometimes it's nice to switch off camera and give them more privacy to talk about whatever they want to talk about. There are so many things that we cannot do in presence trainings that we can do online that we don't really acknowledge always.
Good point. Good point. Did it help, or do you find it necessary for certain projects that you have a helper, an assistant in the background, maybe with technology, that you didn't need for live classroom training? Does that change it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also that's a super important call to all the organizations and universities out there, because clearly maybe a small group, I can handle it. And the three of us, we have been working in the virtual space for many years, so I can handle quite a number of participants in a virtual meeting or event. We need to be aware that a virtual event usually should have a producer, somebody managing the technical part, and a facilitator. So sometimes we even run workshops where we are 3 people. So me being the producer, for example, a friend or my colleague doing the facilitation, and there is even a co-facilitator. And that of course means also that it might be more expensive at some point. And the organizations must acknowledge that. Without having a proper setup in terms of having producer and facilitator, a virtual event not necessarily must be a success.
Well, you said a sentence that I would wholeheartedly agree, and yet that may be one of the stumbling blocks in client conversations. Organizations must acknowledge that organizing an event virtually might become pricey sometimes, depending on the deliverables. So must they, or do they have a choice, and will they? And do they say, well, I don't care what you think I must, the economic realities are as they are, and I must decide whether I want to work with you or somebody else who will do it for less?
Well, I think, of course, organizations can always opt for the cheaper way, as we can opt for a cheap web designer and then see what happens or what comes out, right? But I believe that in the long run, we just need to organize our virtual events in such a way that it becomes standard to have a producer and a facilitator, so that this is not an option, but it should be a standard in order to have the best interaction and engagement and the best experience for your participants. Why otherwise invest just in a virtual event to have something that is standardized? Because how much can I handle? Even as a very good virtual facilitator with a lot of experience, I cannot handle breakout room management, chat, and maybe a Slido poll or whatever. That's just too much.
Right.
And yeah, exactly. I think that would be my answer. But the 3 of us, we also know that it became much harder this year, even, funny enough, to sell virtual events, because there was so much for free out there. So of course, there was a bit of a depreciation in the market, which made it more difficult, in my opinion, at some point.
Yeah, it's a way of finding a way to demonstrate the value of that, because in terms of just assuming that because it's virtual and you don't have the travel and the expense that goes along with that it's going to be cheaper, I would say that to reinvest, take the opportunity to invest at least a portion of that in making this virtual delivery really effective and really impactful.
Yes, absolutely. Very good point.
So there's in our industry, especially in the fields that, I mean, the 3 of us, we work in adjacent fields. So it would behoove us as an industry group, so to say, to come into alignment and to basically form an agreement to say that when we approach our clients or clients approach us, that we come with a shared message that is the best facilitation will be XYZ, and that requires these puzzle pieces to be in place. So I know that for in the cultural training field, that may be a call to action of unity that is easy to, or fairly easy to embed into a larger group of people, because as I know our community, it's very collaborative and is working towards a common goal, even though we might compete on certain projects here or there. Now, is it possible as a provider, Barbara, you, Brett, or myself, as we approach our clients to have basically a toolbox ready to hand to the clients? Hey, if you identify somebody on your team, on your learning and development team, or whoever is my counterpart in the organization that you want me to serve, so here's my toolbox for you, dear client. Identify the person that will be the helping hand, and here's what they can do. Would that be smart on our part to develop that?
It's interesting that you're saying a toolbox. I think it happened very often to me that, for example, office management was asked to do the producing part, and that I usually meet up with office management beforehand in order to explore the platform and, if necessary, explain any aspects of the platform. Because even if I send my production script through, it's not necessarily comprehensive for everybody, even though I think it's a super structured production sheet. But that means that I still meet up usually beforehand with whoever is doing the production part of the company for me, yes. But it's a good idea, great idea to think about that, how we can sort of build up a one-pager on this idea of requirements from our side.
No, I called it a toolbox. It's just a template for us so we can train the assistant on the corporate side, basically, so to make our lives better.
Yeah.
Just an idea.
Always full of ideas, along with your very attractive legs. And so I know Barbara's got to get back.
Since you've been asking, Brett.
I don't know. Well, cut. Our producer, cut. Thank you very much, Barbara. I know your window is very tight, and we're so grateful that you've been able to join us and again share your wisdom and insights and knowledge and what you've learned, of course, setting up Virtual Space Hero. Everybody, check out that hashtag, and we'll get the information on the other resources that Barbara's mentioned. Thank you so much, Barbara. Have a wonderful afternoon and the rest of the day. Have you got them? We're just starting here, by the way. We've got the rest of the day ahead of us. So we're not getting to those whether we're drinking alcohol or not, we're not ready yet. So it's breakfast time. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Add your comments, questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and thanks so much, Brett and Christian. A final shout out there for your amazing Two Chaps Many Culture series, because what you are doing here is just tremendous. Like every day, tremendous topics, great program you're coming up with. Honestly, it's a pleasure, and I'm really humbled to be here. Thanks a lot for the invitation, and really thumbs up for what you are doing. It's really amazing. You know that I'm just doing it once a week, and I already feel like, whoa, it's a lot to do.
Drink more caipirinha. Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes, España. Where in Spain are you? In Valencia?
I'm currently in the beautiful Austria. I'm currently in Vienna.
Na dann, Servus, habe die Ehre.
Servus, Papa. Hat mich gefreut. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.